so much for staying with us. We will be continuing with our conversation with Mr. William, but right now we are focusing on objectives of breeding and reproduction management. Please expound to us a lot more on that.
I'll start by saying when you talk of breeding objectives, it depends with the holder of the vision. I will not dwell much on those who keep animals, or for example, Dorpers for prestige, or maybe as pets, because we do have those kind of people who are not interested with any economic value. I'll be looking at the enterprise approach. So basically when you talk of breeding objectives, it's where you are keeping Dorper for purposes of getting returns and also maybe advancing the genetic. I normally say breeding is an art. You don't just go to the market and buy a ram and come and bring it to serve your females. You must know maybe my females are short, maybe my females are lightweight, and I'm looking for an animal that will advance its body size. You are looking for a male that will, or genetics that will advance the weight accumulation. And Dorpers has those receptions. It is capable of growing very fast if you choose right. It is capable of adding weight, what you call even the live weight or both live weight and carcass weight. And Dorper is also highly prolific. When we say highly prolific, we are simply saying Dorper has capacity to give birth to multiple kids, from 2, 3, 4. But in breeding, it's not again desirable to envy having multiple kids. Because what happens, when your sheep are giving birth to twins, you may see as if you are advancing numbers. But what happens is, more often, one kid is likely to suffer. Is born a little bit underweight, and there is serious competition over milk, unless you're observing 100% supplementation. Otherwise, we normally recommend, if you can have animals that are going to give birth normally to one healthy kid, and they breed once per year. The biggest problem is most of the farmers want you to put the ram walking with the females. That should not happen. When you talk of breeding objectives, a farmer should be asking himself or herself, why am I keeping Dorper? If it is an enterprise, the first question you should ask yourself, what is my large size? That's number one. Number two, do I have capacity to produce enough feeds for these animals? Question number three, what is your stocking rate? If you go to a farmer and you ask him how many animals do you want to keep this farm, and he says, I think I can do 500, I think there's a problem. You must know the number of animals you are going to keep in a given space area. For example, you should also know a sheep takes an average of 3 kilograms per day of feeds. And that animal should access feeds almost 24 hours. If you are grazing the animal, once it comes to the boma, it should also access a bit of some reserve food. If it feels hungry at night, it should be in a position to eat. Remember, it is also converting the feeds to achieve those objectives of live weight, prolific as if it is pregnant, that kind of thing. The other thing is, the ram should serve at least an average of 35 ewes to 50, a healthy ram. But we normally recommend do not exceed 35 to 40. And the ram should come to the females only for 80 days. You may ask why that 80 to 40 days. It is because the estrous cycle of a sheep lasts for 17 days. It goes on heat for 17 days. Then if it is not fertilized, it will go to another cycle heat on 17 days. So if you introduce a ram into your herd of selected females, not every female, you have to select because I said it is a nut. There is something you are trying to build in your offsprings. It should last there for 17 days. If it doesn't get served and conceived within 17 days, we imagine that it must get now served and get fertile or maybe pregnant by the second estrous cycle. If it doesn't within those 40 days, that means that animal should first of all be separated and maybe introduce another ram. Because the animals we import, for example, from South Africa, they are also checked for fertility. Not every male you find here is fertile. It's just the issue of sperm count and that kind of things still apply. That you may find that farmers crying, I have given my ram to my herd and there are no kids coming out. Those are some of the problems. Right. And vaccination also, there's what we call brucella. Brucella is one of the most difficult disease because once it gets into your flock, it causes abortion. So when you talk of the breeding objective, there are all those parameters you have to check. Then how do you get there? You have to undertake quite a number of practices that maintain your herd. Breed selection, according to those parameters we talked about. You must ensure you observe deworming. religiously. You must ensure you feed your animals on proper nutrition, balanced diet, more of protein, especially at reproductive and at the growing stage, lab stage. And at the same time, you must ensure you have targets. If you are doing pure Dorper and you are staying with that Dorper for 1 year, that's a total loss. If you are it's for sale of meat, it should be going to the market from 6 months up to 10 months. You should not be having that animal there. Right. If it is for breeding, you should be at least looking for a ram to serve it from 10 months going, because we normally say a Dorper should be served within 10 months or if it attains 45 kilograms and above. So it is the farmer now to have that objective. Am I going to meet the target of the weight or am I going to meet the target of the age? Then why are you keeping that? One, Dorper has supported, I would say, most sheep farmers are reaping big because of the improvement programs on sheep being supported by county governments and the national government. And there is serious market. I would say there is a crazy demand for mutton, and especially for Dorper, because Dorper meat does not have those allergic things where people say they scratch themselves. Then the meat is not nutritic in such a way that it has a lot of fat. It is well distributed. So there are those who are breeding for meat. There are those who are doing value addition, special cuts. So they just sell as special cuts on selected orders. There are those who are keeping sheep for purposes of manure. Like you find even in towns, people are keeping like 10 sheep at the backyard so that they can produce those droppings and use them for biogas or for the organic orchards around their houses. There are others who will keep Dorper sheep for purposes of selling the offspring. And as a Acacia farm, that is where we are. Most of the time we do pure breed so that we can access other farmers who cannot import acclimatized but locally bred imported pedigrees, so that they're able to access those animals.
When you want to serve your female sheep, also there's a selection you need to do.
Yes.
As a farmer, who needs to help you do that?
One thing, I'll start from the government perspective. The government needed to have outreach program to the Dorper breeders, whereby they will be trained, empowered on breed selection and what to look for. Then the other thing that need to be done is the issue of the breeder society. The Kenya Dorper Breeder Society need also to recruit more members, because almost in every region, Dorper is widespread. It can do well in coast, it can do well in cold areas, lowlands, everywhere. So we need to outreach our farmers so that we are able to educate them. Then those who are doing it like this farm, they need also to open their doors so that farmers can come and have open days to learn these things.
Maybe you can talk to farmers on some of the common mistakes you have seen them make during this breeding process and also the reproduction management.
One of the most grave mistakes you can do when you're doing Dorpers is in breeding, like I said. Having a ram serving its mother, its sisters, brothers, its sisters, and its mothers. You are in for a rude shock. The other mistake is having animals you don't have records about. It's not a must you have the sophisticated systems, but that aspect of saying this animal, ensure first of all your animals are tagged or marked, whether it is through ear notching or tagging. The second thing for a common farmer, ensure at least number 17, for example, is recorded and you have given some description about it. For example, if you are starting, where did you buy it? If they have records, please adopt the records. Then once it is served, say it is served this female and this female on this date. Then when the kids are born, please note when every kid was born. Like in our farm, we advocate for tagging the animal immediately it drops on the ground. It starts to start, we tag. Then from there, ensure you observe vaccination right. That's another grave mistake. You don't vaccinate your animals, you wake up and you have your horror in the morning. Some diseases can wipe the entire flock completely, like PPR. We have other diseases like sheeppox, and some of them are not reversible. Once it strikes your heart, go. Right. Brucella, which is more of it affects the reproduction system. Again, that one is a close shop.
Is there a way that you feel we need to regulate the market from maybe people who pose as fake breeders?
That is the biggest dilemma even with the government, because every time there is an opportunity that's making a return, there is a quail craze. Everybody wants to get into it, everybody wants to paint is doing it. And you find we are causing a total mess in this country, even in import. So the conversation that we are having is the issue of how we can have traceability, an issue of how we can regulate the kind of animals that are getting into the country. And there is also the contentious bill that the other day was suspended, which people have misunderstood. It did not say that you must have a license for you to do whatever you are doing. But if you are having animals in the name of breeding, and meaning you'll be opening your gates for purposes of accessing those genetics to other farmers, then you must be regulated. You must be registered, because we wanted to know what you are giving farmers has records, can be traced in terms of its genuinity. We also have CAGRI. CAGRI is also doing a lot of work in trying to collect the semen of different animals and keeping those superior semen for purposes of multiplication of certain genetics that they perceive to be superior.
Right.
But regulating the sector is a must.
Right.
Even those who are getting our meat, for example, Middle East and all that kind of thing, they want traceability. This meat, has it been grown organically? Has it been grown within a certain time frame?
I'm a young person who wants to get into Dorper farming, the Gen Z who is very aggressive in this market now, and I want to get into Dorper farming for meat.
Okay.
I want us to see how I can start that. Give me a month. Help me understand how many I can start with, at what point will I start making my profit, ndo nianze kujipanga kipesa, sindio? So if I'm starting out, how do I start? What will be required of me as my capital?
It's very easy, and there's a lot of money. Remember, these sheep do not stay on your back. You can afford it to continue being in office, you can go to school and still have the breeding. So what is important is, do you have the space? Do you know where to source the animals? And do you have the right feeds? So you must start by looking for that kind of information. Once you have that, then the capital comes in. But economies of scale comes in. And if you start this project with less than, let's talk of 15 animals, it will take you time to break even. Because we are simply saying, if you have 15 females, that means you have 15 kids every year, plus any that is born as a multiple. And research or experience has shown, for every 10 animals, 6 to 4, male to female. Often, farmers don't keep males because they want to hold on females to build numbers, but they want to sell the males especially for meat. But either way, at 6 months, you are capable of selling your animals for meat as organic labs. In terms of capital, when you have about 200 to 300,000, you can have a good start.
It has been an absolute pleasure speaking to Mr. William, who is a certified breeder and importer as well. We have managed to address serious issues like how we can regulate the market from fake breeders, and also what our farmers need to do and adhere to in order to make sure that they are successful in sheep farming in Kenya. Thank you so very much for watching our Gold Conversation. We do hope it has been very insightful for you as a sheep farmer. Please keep watching Kenya's Gold. We still do have a lot more